Hi, welcome to card number 4 in March's Daffodil Daydream card class. I couldn't do a card class with this set without using the dies. They're lots of fun to use, and I've tried to include them on this card, which is a bit of a fun fold design. So it folds nice and flat, and the idea of this is you have a pull-out section that helps it stand up like so. And it's quite hard for you to see, but basically this middle section tucks just inside the jam jar, and it looks like we have a really nice display of flowers. So to make this card, you basically need some cardstock, some DSP, the lovely dies, and I have used a little bit of heat embossing as well. I've used the jar punch here, which coordinates with the Jar of Flowers stamp set that is soon to retire, and I think it creates a really nice finished card design. It opens up like so, so you can write your message in there, and as I said at the beginning, it folds nice and flat as well. So making a start on this card design, you are going to need a background card base that's cut from, I think I've used, it's either Bumblebee or Crush Curry. I think it's Bumblebee cardstock. And the first piece, the largest piece, which measures 10.5 centimetres by 29, you are going to pop it in your trimmer so you have the long edge at the top, and you're going to score at 7 centimetres and 14 centimetres. Okay. The next piece of Bumblebee cardstock, this measures 24 by 9 centimetres. You're going to score it at the middle section at 12 centimetres, and that is all your scoring done. Okay, so it's definitely one of those card designs that looks more complicated than it actually is, and the key to this is obviously making sure your creases are well scored and burnished. Okay, so to create the base, this is the sort of design we're looking for, and then we need our middle piece to be scored as well. So the basis of the card is we have that piece like so, this piece goes in there like that, and that sits on there. Now this card can also be designed on a landscape orientation. The idea is that it opens up like that and folds out. So it's a sort of two-pronged card design, and it's entirely up to you which way you put this together. So we're going to add our pieces of designer series paper to this, and actually once you've cut out all your pieces, this card builds really nicely. Okay, so we're going to slot our piece of designer series paper in there like so, and then we're going to fold that up, and we're going to put our smaller piece of designer series paper on that front panel. Just be mindful when you cut your designer series paper of the orientation of the print. Okay, it makes a whole heap of difference. So that is our first part of our card base, and the second part we are going to add the piece of Very Vanilla inside, and the second piece of Very Vanilla is going on the front. Now this card I originally designed for a team event, my Stampin' Stars team event, and I loved it so much I thought I would incorporate it in this card class. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put our glue on the back of this small card base, and we're going to open this up, and this piece is going to sit in the centre of that background piece. Okay, make sure it's on nice and straight, and there you have it, that folds in like so. So thinking about this from a landscape perspective, that could be the start of your card as well. So it's a really lovely versatile card design, and I really like it. It won't stand up, it will stand a little bit, but it stands wonky, so this is where that front section is really important. Okay, so I'm going to bring in, this is what I coloured previously, I'm going to bring in my Very Vanilla card stock, and I'm going to stamp that jam jar. I'm going to stamp it in Memento, and I'm going to cut this out with the coordinating jam jar punch. Like so. Okay. So now I'm going to tuck that back inside, and I am going to attach my jam jar to this front panel. Now the important part when you stick this down, you're going to use dimensionals to do this, is it needs to have a stopper. It needs to have a stopper so it stands nice and tall. If you don't put a stopper on, one, you've got no way of really attaching it then, but you don't want that front card base to slide down too far. Okay, so bring in your dimensionals, and mine are here, and I'm going to trim just a little section out here. So I am going to put, you see this middle section, these middle two shaded areas, I'm going to put my dimensionals right across there. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit down here to really make sure it's attached well. Okay, peel off that nice backing. And then this jam jar is going to sit kind of towards the bottom of that card. Now, when we attach that in, it stands really quite nicely in that jam jar. So quite an effective little technique. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to build our daffodils, okay? You have lots of these in your kit, and I have actually cut them all from the colour cardstock that's in the background, and I'm going to show you a really fun technique to bring these daffodils alive. What I suggest you do is, before you start putting them together, is you just marry them up. So all I've done is I've added the coordinating detailed layer to that bottom layer. Okay, and I'm going to need for this a little sponge dauber, and my sponge dauber is going to be in Mango Melody. Okay, Mango Melody is a really lovely sort of orangey colour, and for this I'm going to add just a little bit of colour to that detailed sort of area. And I'm not being too heavy-handed, I'm just adding it so you get a really nice, what's the word I'm looking for? You get a nice colour on them. You want it to be subtle colour on them. Okay, you don't want them to be too in your face. And these dies, I won't lie, when I first opened the packet I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with those? How are we going to put those together? But actually what I did is I just cut them all out and went from there. They also go really nicely with the pansies and the tulips if you wanted to create a sort of bouquet of different flowers in your cards. Now this set is carrying over into the new annual catalogue, so I'm really glad I went with the daffodils and not the tulips, because the tulips are actually retiring. Okay, so there we have our daffodil pieces with some extra colour, and now I'm going to take each piece and attach them to their coordinating background piece. And just that little touch of colour on really changes how they look, I think. I would recommend a little bit of patience when you start working with these. And with the glue, less is definitely more. go. Last little piece. There we go. Right, so to build these daffodils, I am going to show you what I have done to make these, okay? So I have got, I'm just making sure I've got this right. So I've got this one here and this one here, and I'm going to mount those two together. Like so. And then I'm going to pop on one of these middle heads as such. Like so. So that's our first one. Our next one I am going to add like so. So I'm going to put these two together. Is that what I did before? Hang on. I'm just building this up. Did I do it like that? No, I didn't do it like that. This one and this one go together. And then the little flower head goes in top. There we go. So our 3 daffodil heads. Okay. And then now we're going to take this to our card. So I'm going to take our first one of these. Now your one might look ever so slightly different to me, because what I have done is I have die cut them so that you have just one set of daffodils. So that little bud one is going to go together like so, and you might need to trim off some of your stems. Okay, so we've got that one. I've got this one. And then this one here. Right, so I'm just going to trim off my stems. Be quite delicate with your glue so you don't end up with glue sort of everywhere. Oops. Okay, like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dimensional underneath the heads, like so, just to raise them ever so slightly. And I'm going to put that one, actually I'm going to take that one off of there, because I want that daffodil to go in the other direction. That one is going to go in there. Trim off our little stem. Like so, and then we've got our little bud, which I'm going to put, just move that over slightly, and then we've got our little bud to go in there. So all of this is being done by eye, there's no right or wrong. If you've got these dies at home, you may want to add more daffodils. You may even want to, rather than do it using the dies, if you prefer the stamps, you may wish to cut this piece out and stick that on instead, as a nice little alternative. Now you have these extra sort of leaves here, and I want to curl these slightly, and I'm going to stick these on as well. Okay, trim off the bottom, and then our last little piece is going to go over there. Okay, over there or over there. I think I'm actually going to tuck that behind there, and I'm going to move this slightly if it will allow me to. Yeah, lovely. So there we have our daffodils all stuck down, and then we're going to pop that inside there so you have your lovely display of daffodils. And then we're going to finish with just a little heat embossed sentiment. Now this sentiment actually comes from the Cactus Cuties stamp set, another one of my firm favourites from this catalogue. And I'm going to heat emboss with white embossing powder onto this black card. I got myself into a real pickle with my embossing powder the other day. I didn't put the lid on properly and ended up with white embossing powder everywhere. So I've lost quite a bit from my tub, and I need to order some more. So let's just give this a little heat. There we go. And we're going to trim this down into some letter tiles or word tiles even. You could pop it on as one if you wanted to, but I am going to just trim them down into 3 words to add individually. So let's just close our card again, and we can stick these on. So we've got just a note. And there we go. Oh, so that's just moved. And that is our card design all complete. And I hope you like it. If you have any questions about anything I've used or anything I've done during that video, please get in touch. And I will see you all on the next video, the last video of this month's class. Bye for now.